Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm Teller Morose, joined by my co-host YOYO, and this is Tier List Tuesdays, the most subjective podcast that will ever exist on the internet.
And that's a fact.
It is. I don't think anyone could be more opinionated. There's no facts in this whatsoever, except for that. Today we're doing something a little bit different rather than just naming off food or whatever. This is an article that we found by Mantelligence, and it's called 88 Best First Date Ideas, or something along the lines. And we took the first 10 of their ideas, and we're going to make a tier list out of those ideas on how well we think they work as a first date. Can you, who's the author of that article, by the way?
Well, that would be a... Oh, wait, it's not at the top of the article.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Seth. Hold on. Let me see
Seth?
if we can get a little bit more on...
Just Seth?
Nope, just Seth.
Just
that's
Seth.
it.
Okay. Seth from Mantelligence, thanks for the article, and thanks for giving us some content for the month. And we're gonna tear you a new one. That's not true. Some of these are pretty awful in my opinion, but...
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh, what'd you find?
No. I was interested in that you think some of them are awful.
Oh,
I was pretty much just like, yeah, whatever. They're all... Let's
There's one in particular on the list that we have today that just absolutely riled me up when I read it. And we'll get there. But let's start with the first one. Let's stop beating around the bush. Flea market. This is a strange one to me. I like the idea. I've never been on a flea market date, mainly because I don't really care for flea markets myself. But I feel like this is a weird one being, we're some southern boys, right?
Yep.
And most flea markets occur outside in the summer when it's about 109 degrees outside and the world is ready to just murder us. Or the sun, I should say, is about ready to murder us.
But that's no reason not to go outside. We all go outside anyways.
I mean, yeah, but could you imagine like being on a first date and you're like, oh, let's go to a flea market where there's a lot of people, a lot of crowds, a lot of just like stuff you kind of want but don't really care enough to pay for, and also you're drenched in sweat.
I mean, when you put it that way, it does sound pretty bad. And I think with a flea market, it's part of it... I think you have to have good chemistry, like, already before, like, you go to the flea market, because if you go to the flea market and you guys aren't really, like, hitting it off, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be the worst.
This is
but
also
if you
just
are,
oh, go ahead.
It's a really good place for, just random opportunities, spontaneity, just talking, seeing whatever there is to see.
Yeah. This is a weird side thought, but what if you were, like, hypothetically on this first date, and they just came across something and they were like, ooh, I really want this, like, just obscure thing that you don't feel comfortable with. I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, a good example. Where it's like, hey, buy me these Beats headphones that are clearly a box of sand. I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, what would they be interested in at a flea market that would just make me very uncomfortable to see them ever again. I'm being too pessimistic, I guess. I don't know.
I was about to say, I don't feel like there's very much on that list that someone could buy there that I would really be upset about. I think it would be to a point like, if they did buy something weird, I'd be like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's a conversation piece. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like if I randomly, like, somebody has, like, a carved bear statue, I'm like, yes, I would like this. And they're like, what do you
probably, know about this, because you've been to my house a couple of times, but we have the cigar store Indian that's chilling in the corner of our basement that's just carved out of wood. And that was something that my dad picked up. It's not my taste personally, but I saw that and I was like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Pretty cool.
Well, so yeah, that's the thing. It's all like one item choice. It's not going to make or break a relationship as far as I'm concerned, unless, you take them to the flea market and they're like, I love this place. This is where I get my drugs. Then,
I was about to say that, actually. It's like, oh, hey, can you buy me these prescription pills that don't belong to me? It's like, yeah, there's not a date 2 after that.
That's definitely a deal breaker, I would say, but I can't imagine much else. Like,
I think maybe better than a flea market, I think the better alternative would be like an arts and crafts show. Because then it's like, oh, there's like really weird, unique things here, and maybe it like speaks to your date in a way that you might be able to like connect with them a little bit more on. But a flea market is actually sometimes practical stuff. So
the difference for me here is that if you go into the flea market, it's a lot of like mundane stuff, and you're not looking for stuff to really like dig into the deep side of things and understand its meaning. You're looking around and you're thinking like, wow, that's a really interesting possum scarf. Like, I didn't know anyone would ever want a possum scarf before, but there it is, and I kind of like it. Like, that's
a fair point. I don't know. I'm not saying it's like a horrible idea or anything. It's like for me, it was like B, and I think just through our debate here, it's bumped up to A for me.
My there are only some major complaint is that you have to have a good flea market to go to.
That's very true. You have to be in like I don't know if you a long time ago we went to Fort Lauderdale, and it's like a quote unquote flea market, but they sold like very luxurious items right outside of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a luxury car museum was on one side of the street, and on the other was a flea market that sold stuff that should probably also belong in a luxury museum.
I see.
It was strange, but on one hand I really liked that, and on the other hand it's like I can't purchase anything here. But that, Fort Lauderdale is kind of a upscale area, so obviously I don't have the money for that.
Yeah.
Regardless, though, it's not a bad date idea. I'm actually pretty for it. I don't know. I can't stand being like out in the heat for too long, so I just imagine myself being drenched in sweat while on a first date. And that,
I mean, I suppose like, but then that's something that's going to be marked against like every single outside activity, and
yeah,
at that point, just move to the north, man. Like, I don't know what your problem is.
The economy, but that's a whole different conversation. No, you got a point. Like, I hate the sun, so most of those things are gonna be pretty low bar for me. But yeah, no, I think flea market's actually a solid idea. I'm coming around to it.
Okay.
I'm a fan of that.
Well, you said A tier. I like A tier. That sounds good to me.
Cool. Flea market, A tier. Who'd have thunk it? Somebody, probably.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the arcade. And I'm going to be honest, this one is very hit or miss for me. I've had quite a few dates in arcades. Not always firsts, but definitely dates.
Interesting.
On the one hand, it's really fun. And, you can go around and it's like a little bit competitive, but you're having a good time with it. It's not like you're trying to outdo anybody. I don't know. There's some times where you're just like you're hanging out with whoever you're on your date with, and they're like, I want to go and do this, and then you don't really want to do it. And it's either you sacrifice it, or you don't. I don't know. It's hard to explain it because it's like I know that there are people out there that really want to go and play like the arcade version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, hypothetically.
Okay.
And personally, I hate that game because I don't like to gamble with anything except for my career. Shout out to the entertainment industry. But I don't know, like I'll play that game and it's like, oh, you can win up to 1 million tickets, and that's a lot, But for me, it's like that first offer of like 300,000. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm taking it. You know, like my first thing is always to get the tickets in the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing. And that's just one example, but weirdly enough, I'm a big fan of like there's a thing where it's like Connect 4 with the little discs you put in there and you have to line them up. It's like that, but with basketball. And I'm a big fan of that. That's a fun game to me. Even though I'm not a very good basketball player, and I don't seem like the sporty type, it's pretty fun.
Well, I mean, if it's just the big like athleticism part of basketball comes with like trying to play around each other and whatnot.
That's true.
So if you're just making shots, you know.
Yeah. You're just kind of throwing a ball.
Yeah. I really
Before
don't
you
like
answer
arcades.
this, hold on. Before you answer this, what is your favorite arcade game? I know you just said you're not a big fan, but I'm curious.
What's the skee ball?
Oh, hell yeah. Classic.
Yeah. It's always been the one that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah. But what about as a date? I'm sorry I cut you off on that. I was hurting to know.
Oh, no worries, man. I know it's a very, very important subject.
It is. It definitely is. I actually didn't know that about you. So that was something that was important to me, man. Anyway,
so,
talk about your
I don't like arcades, at all, as I've stated.
Okay.
I don't generally find them to be like that enjoyable. I don't like playing most of the games that much.
Okay.
So for me, just not really high on my personal list of places.
Okay.
As far as a date goes, though, I could see it being pretty good. I'm not really a super competitive person, so
right.
that kind of loses out on me as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's something whereas like with the flea market, we had a place that's going to spark conversation that's not necessarily deep, but you learn about each other anyways.
Yeah.
The arcade to me seems like a place where you're going to not do that very much.
Okay.
You're just going to play games and have fun, which is cool, but not exactly a good like learn about each other kind of environment.
Yeah. I mean, outside of like learning what kind of arcade games they like to play,
yeah,
and like maybe
and how competitive
what
they are as
flavor
a
of hot
person.
wings they have. Shout out to Dave and Buster's. No, but on a serious note, you're absolutely right. It kind of feels like this is the point I was trying to make with like arcade dates. In my experience, it's always just been like, ooh, let's play this game, and then you play it, and then you like, haha, I win or whatever. And then immediately you're just like, oh, what's next? And you just walk around until you find the next thing.
Right.
Which I don't have a problem with as a, 17th date when you've been dating for like a year and you're like, oh, let's do something a little different. Let's go to an arcade. But as a first date, you don't get a ton of time to talk to people. It's just kind of like, oh, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the kind of date you're going to go on to really get to know someone, which is what I feel like a first date is supposed to be about.
Yeah. I mean, and it's all up to preference on, like if you're trying to date for like the long con, as people might say, arcade is probably not the best start, unless you're just kind of like warming up to get to know somebody. I don't know. It's weird because all of the last few relationships I've had have been like, I've known them for a long time and then we start dating. So if it's like a blind date, it's absolutely god awful to go to the arcade. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a horrible date idea. It's not like it's the worst thing ever, but
for first dates,
I'm thinking C.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Like you can get away with it for sure, but there's definitely better ideas.
Right. Okay, so arcade. C tier. I can't spell. And now we're moving on to mini golf. I think we're thinking the same thing on this. I don't know. I could be wrong. What do you think?
I personally, I do like mini golf.
Okay.
It's kind of a similar situation to the arcade, except there's, it also depends, because if the mini golf place you go into is really busy, then you're kind of going to be in a rush. So it's going to be a lot like the arcade, where you're just going like hole to hole instead of game to game.
Right.
But if it's not, if it's slow, you can take your time and just chat while you play a little golf on a little miniature scale, and that's pretty cool.
I have a pretty. I'm going to go ahead and preface this by saying I think it belongs side by side with the arcade.
Mm.
I again am not like a super competitive person, like you said. It's nice to have like a little bit of friendly, like, ooh, let's see who's better every once in a while. But I don't know, as a first date, like, imagine if you were like frustrated by mini golf, or you were like overly competitive with mini golf. As dumb as that sounds, it's probably happened once or twice, to the point where it's just like, okay, like, I guess I don't know. Because now part of me is saying, if your date is overly competitive to the point that it bothers you, it is a first date idea that's good. Because then you can kind of wean them off pretty quick and be like, okay, you're way too competitive. I don't want to see you again.
Well, see, yeah, that's kind of... it kind of feels like it has the same downsides of the arcade.
Yeah.
While also having some of the same upsides. But there's potential for it to be slightly better. At least in my mind.
You know what a downside to mini golf is that arcades have the upside on? Is that when you're done at an arcade, you get the tickets and you can splurge on some, candy or a stuffed animal, or if you're there long enough, a PlayStation.
Jesus.
I'm just saying, the prize is there.
It is.
And like, that's not to say like, oh, you get a material item, so the arcade is better. But it's like, that's another conversation piece similar to the flea market thing, where it's like, if you go to an arcade prize room or whatever they have, and they pick out something that they want, you can be like, oh, like, this person likes this thing, and then you can at least talk about that. I don't know. With mini golf, it's just kind of like, okay, it's it. That's it. We're done. Cool.
Yeah.
And you can talk during the mini golf thing, which I guess is an upside. I don't know. I think they're pretty hand in hand, mini golf and the arcade.
I'm starting to see it. For me, it feels like the mini golf is like, it has slightly more potential, but then it also could just be slightly worse than the arcade, so it kind of balances out.
Yeah.
I can go C tier.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just... Something about it feels like both simultaneously better and worse, but it's in the same theme, so it's all over the place in my head.
Yeah.
That being said, we're moving on to comedy open mic. Go ahead.
I don't like it. I don't like the idea.
I'm so glad you said that. This is the absolute F tier for me. If you go on a first date to a comedy open mic, I hate you. And I'm saying that, like, I'm joking a little bit, but that is the worst idea that you can possibly have.
Well,
no. Think about this. You go to a comedy night, and you get your drinks, and you get to talk for 20 minutes to maybe an hour if you're there really early. And then you don't talk until it's over. You laugh and you cheer. But if you talk during an open mic at a comedy thing, like, you and I are going to fight, personally. I will fight you if you talk during a comedy mic night or open mic night. As someone who works at a venue that occasionally has those, and as someone who has had to film a comedy show with really loud hecklers, I hate you.
Well, all right then.
I want to tell this story now that I'm on the tangent. I worked briefly. I got laid off given the recent circumstances, but I worked briefly at a venue that has a 5-camera setup, and we did an open mic night. And part of the headlining comedian, part of his set had to become addressing people that were arguing because there was a table that was talking too loud. So like this table was talking really loud, and I don't know if they were good friends or whatever, but the table behind them was like, "You've been talking so loud all night. Can you please stop?" And then the comedian just turned around and he's like, "Ooh, like here's some room for me to do a bit." And like it was funny because the comedian was like actually a very professional one. I won't say who it was. But like if you do that on an open mic night and it's like a comedian's first show, you're going to make them nervous. And like that's, I don't know, like there's just so much wrong with talking during a comedy show.
It's very disrespectful.
Yeah. So just the alternative would be to do all of the things you would do at a comedy open mic without the comedians on stage. Go to a bar, get some drinks, hang out, laugh, have a good time. Cheer. I don't give a shit. Just don't do it while comedians are on stage. They're trying to fucking perform.
Yeah. Pretty much the only good thing you get out of the comedy open mic is you learn about their sense of humor. Which,
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, you can learn that with probably any other date idea that's on here.
Yeah, just, try different genres of jokes.
Yeah. Just tell some jokes until you see the person laugh. Like, be the comedian, and just don't be on stage, and then you won't have to shit on that person for laughing at you.
For the record, the article says if she's laughing and having a good time, she'll want another date, which I suppose is true.
I mean,
but
sure.
If she's laughing and having a good time, and it's completely unrelated to you, you just happen to be there.
Yeah, it's like she doesn't want to go on another date. She wants to see the comedian again.
Yeah, she wants to go to that comedy place again, maybe with somebody else.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the date. Like, she could be like, "Oh, like that date was the worst, but that comedian was hilarious." Yeah, comedy open mic nights are kind of a dumb idea. Like I said, just go to a bar and enjoy your company there if you're gonna do that. I'm thinking
I agree.
F. Like, just straight to the bottom.
Yeah, pretty much. Cool. I don't really see any point. I mean, it feels harsh to put it in F, because F
it feels
like,
right.
Really bad ideas. Like, I'm sure you can come up with something worse, but...
Out of the 10 that we have, it's in my opinion, by far the worst. There is one other one on here that seems a little strange, but we'll elaborate on it. Okay. It's not this one, but the early movie, which, if I'm not mistaken, they say rather than getting dinner and a movie, just see the movie at dinner time, and then you have the rest of the evening to, find out what you want to do. Something along those lines.
Correct. That is correct.
I read up a little bit. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but thank you, Seth from Mantelligence, for coming up with this idea, because I've done this in the past, not in first dates, but later on in life, like, we'll see a movie at like 4 rather than 8 or 9 p.m. And then we have time, to wander around or whatever.
I've done this as well, and I like it. The only issue that you can run into is you run the risk of seeming cheap, because you're going to the matinee times where prices are lower, which is not inherently a bad thing, but...
I get your point, but at the same time, it's kind of like that, like I said, it's like that process of weaning people out. Or weeding people out.
If they have a problem with you going to the
where it's
matinees.
like, oh, you don't want to spend like a few extra dollars to see a movie later, then you're not my type. Like, no, okay, get out of here. Plus, like, the matinee movies, if I'm not mistaken, are usually not like, new films. Like, I remember we my current girlfriend and I, we went to see, I think it was Elf last Christmas. It was in like downtown or one of the two. I gotta cut that out. Jesus Christ, I literally just named where we live. It's a rough episode. Yeah, but we were just like hanging out, and we saw a movie at like, I don't know, 3 p.m. or something like that. We saw Elf. It was a good time. People were like reciting lines during the movie because it's like it's like a classic movie.
Right.
But we saw it, and then we had time to wander around the little town area that's around the theater there, and it was just nice. It was nice to not have to like immediately start going home after the movie. We had time to walk and hang out rather than it just being we saw a movie and then we left.
So that's the big plus for me is that you have the time afterwards, whereas normally, you go into the movie late, you get done, and it's like 10 o'clock,
Yeah, and it's like, oh, time to go home. Everything's closed or, whatever.
Yeah.
I think the immediate conversation that most people have after a movie is, how did you like the movie? And if you have like a late at night movie that you go and see, it's usually like you talk about that for a little bit, and that's kind of it. That's your car ride home, or at least, for me.
Pretty much.
I'll sit with a date and say, how'd you like it? How'd you feel about this part? Whatever. And that's kind of it.
Well, see, I also don't really like movies as a first date in general.
That's a fair point. I'm going to take it a step further. I don't really like movies in general. I'm too, I can't focus for that long on a screen for 3 hours and not feel like I can't. Video games are different for me because I'm interacting with it. But a movie, it's like, okay, I'm sitting here and I'm going to watch this movie. And then, minutes pass and I'm like, what am I going to do tomorrow? My brain just shoots off in a different direction.
I definitely don't have that issue.
That's called ADHD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't go watching a whole bunch of movies in a row because I will, but get bored. But
and I've heard other podcasts and stuff that I've listened to. They're always like, now that we're in this whole debacle of staying at home, everyone's like, you should go watch the Lord of the Rings uncut trilogy, and it's like 13 hours of film. And I'm like, dude, I couldn't sit through the original cut of one of them. You want me to watch all three? 13 hours? Are you fucking me right now? I'm not doing that. As much as people recommend, what were you going to say?
I have done that.
Okay.
I don't recommend watching it all in one sitting. I have done that as well.
Oh boy.
But, yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a limit.
Yeah, I'm not shitting on your ability to do that or anything. I'm sure they're like cinematic masterpieces, and I'm sure it's well worth it if you can do it. But personally, I can't do it. I don't know. And even with my current girlfriend, she'll be like, let's go see a movie, and I'm like, okay. And the matinee thing is fine because, like I said, we have time to hang out afterward, and then we get to end it on a good note, not like, oh, we sat in silence for 2 hours or whatever, and then we drove home. Like, that bothers me.
So, I will say, part of the beauty of the matinees is that they tend to be less populated than the normal movies.
Yeah.
Because of this, if you go at a very unpopular time, and there's very few, if to no one in there, and you can just talk and make jokes and do whatever the freak you want for the entire duration of the movie.
Yeah.
That's
a little
good
different.
Date.
Yeah.
But very specific.
Not a date, but I went with two of my coworkers, and I'm outing myself really hard by saying this, but we went and saw the Slenderman movie. And it was me and, like I said, two of my coworkers, and we sat way in the back, and we just smoked and yelled at the screen whenever something dumb happened, and everyone was just having a good time. And by everyone, I mean me and my two coworkers and the two other people that were in there.
Exactly.
We're just laughing at our jokes and, just like, what is this movie? It's so stupid. And then, I don't know, it was a good time. So I think it's different when you have, I would say, not a first date idea, but a more fun time, in my opinion, would be to get a bunch of friends and just have a movie night, and then I don't know, make a good time out of that. So maybe the first date equivalent to that is like invite her to a small get together of all your friends with some movies, and then just hang out. I don't know. That's probably not a good idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, for a first date, then you
Probably not.
run the interesting issue of you've already introduced all your friends to the person,
Yeah, that's a fair point.
which can like immediately make or break.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But again, I'm so caught up in the the fact that all of my relationships started off as friendships. So I don't know. It's strange. Like you actually still have not met my girlfriend in person, but given the circumstances of physical distance for one, but like I don't know. I was a good friend with her for like a year. I met her friends, and I don't have friends that live around me anymore. But it's like we knew our social circles before we started dating.
Yeah.
I don't know. It
definitely makes things easier.
Yeah, but I'll say
opens up a lot more options.
To bring this full circle, since we're a little off topic, the early movie thing. I would say, like, I want to say B maximum for me. It's like a B minus.
Yeah, I would say regular movie is gonna be
Pretty
almost low. F tier, probably E tier.
Yeah.
Early movie, and then doing something else afterwards gives you a lot more options.
Yeah. Well, I think a big proponent of it too is like, it kind of depends on what you do with the rest of your time.
That's kind of the other thing. It's a bit of a cop-out answer, because it's like, what do you do on your first date? You watch a movie, and then you pick another first date option.
Yeah, but it does add to the sense of like if you came home from a date, and whoever you were talking to whenever you get home says, "What'd you do?" If you say, "Oh, we saw a movie," like, that sounds kind of lame. But if you're like, "Oh, we saw a movie, and then we got coffee at this place, and then we went to the park," like, the movie is like a good start, in my opinion. It's like, oh, you did all of that, even if you just said we saw a movie and then we got coffee. It's like, wow, that's two things,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking B.
I think B is fine. It's kind of weird for me, because B is fine for me, assuming that it's movie and then you go do other stuff, but I don't know what that other stuff is.
Yeah. I don't know. That's strange, too, because, like, what if you saw an early movie and then you just, like, that was the end of the date? Like, what if that's it? And you just, oh, we saw a movie and you're home at, like, 6 p.m.
That would be like...
And then...
I would say that's probably F tier.
Yeah.
So early movie plus nothing equals F tier. Regular movie, E tier. Early movie plus whatever afterwards.
Late movie.
Probably. No.
Maybe
wrong.
If you're like
Bad.
Big like film people, that might be one thing. But again, that's not me. I'm not a movie person, period. So it's hard for me to...
I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, that's fair.
If both of you are like super big on arcade games and really competitive people, but you can be friendly about it, I'm sure the arcade is a fantastic first date. But the thing is, you probably don't know that, because this is a first date.
Okay. So I think what this is leading me to think is the early movie idea is probably a C tier, in my opinion. If it goes pretty well, then it's a B tier. But it really is dependent on what you do next. So I don't want to give it too many points, because it doesn't...
I pretty much agree with you, yeah.
My head
is
The early
movie
spinning.
Itself is not good.
Stupid, yeah.
It's good in that it's better than a regular movie.
Yeah, because at least you have the rest of your day to, dick off or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Dick around is the right phrase. But yeah, it's all dependent. The early movie alone is horrible, but the early movie plus just about anything else really sounds pretty nice.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
think C tier is a good place for it.
C? Okay. I was
Yep.
about to talk myself back into putting it at B, but I think it belongs at C because it is highly dependent on what you do afterward. Okay. Early movie is out of here, and now we're moving on to the 3-course dinner at different places. Can you give me a quote from that article real quick just to enlighten us?
Yeah, I can give you 6 words.
Oh.
Pack 3 dinner dates into 1.
Okay. So, obviously, 3-course dinner is going to be like appetizer, entree, dessert, right? That's the way that goes?
Yeah, I mean...
You're not doing a 3-course like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That would be psychotic. Maybe lunch, dinner, dessert, but there's still hours in between. I'm assuming if it's a first date, you don't want it to last like the whole day. So you do, like I said, appetizers at one place, your entree at another place, and then dessert at a third place.
I'm assuming that too, and while that is like the best interpretation I can come up with, I don't like.
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of psychotic.
It's okay. See, that's the thing, because you could also just be like, oh, yeah, it's kind of quirky, you know? It's kind of like, oh, that's an interesting idea. But or you could just go do dinner at one place.
Yeah.
And
maybe
get all
get
your
dessert
food
afterward.
there.
Yeah. Better yet, let's just take our first date to a grocery store, and then no, I'm kidding. The only way I could really see this like really working out, and this just came to mind, so bear with me on this thought and process. If you lived in like, let's say hypothetically, you lived like in New York City, like in the middle of it, or if you lived in like like a Los Angeles area or a SoCal area, and there's just a lot of places to go, then hypothetically you could get your first course at a nice place and then walk along, the fancy areas and then get to the next place. And then you have like a little conversation in between.
The issue is, do you even want to get your food at different places?
No, I think that's horrendous, honestly.
Yeah.
It's kind of expensive. It's, a lot of just, I don't know, it just seems like more work than necessary.
So yeah, it says pack 3 dinner dates into 1. But that's a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like, do you really need to do 3 dinner dates? Is 1 dinner date not enough? Like...
And here's the thing. People are going to get full. And then what do you do? Just imagine you're like, we got to get to this third place. I made reservations for us to get a slice of cheesecake at this place. We have to go. And she's like, no, I like it here. And then you're just like, but I made reservations. And then you lose like a lot of money on that. I'm sorry. Price is something that comes to mind for me too. Because like, if you get appetizer and entree and dessert all at one place, it's still pretty expensive. There's not an argument there necessarily, but if you go to 3 different places, you're literally making an effort to, I don't know, change your budget. You have to make time to get from one place to the next, assuming they're not all very close together. I don't know, like what you should do is you should you're going to hate me for saying this. You should take your first date to the airport, and then you can go from one gate to the next, and you can be like, oh, we're going to get appetizers at this Mexican bar that is open at 4 a.m. in the airport. And then you go to the E-terminal, and you get your entrees at the Applebee's that's at the E-terminal of the airport. And then you end it with Brewster's ice cream that's at the baggage claim of the airport. This bit's dumb. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all right. I don't blame you because the idea itself is dumb, and so
Yeah.
trying to make a
I
bit out of
dragged
it.
that out to be as funny as possible, and then I realized it took me more than a minute, so I was kind of sick of it.
Yeah, yep.
I can see, like I said, the only way I can really see this working is if you're in a very beautiful part of a big city. If you're in like the CNN center of Atlanta, or you're in like like the Strip in Vegas or something like that, I can really see that going well. But I don't know. It just seems strange. It seems like too much effort. If someone, like, hypothetically, if I went on a date and they'd planned for us to have 3 meals at 3 different places, I'd be like, you are tediously planning this first date way too much. You know, it's like, I get you're trying to, like, woo me or whatever. Do people still say that?
No, but
Okay.
sure.
Well, you're trying to really make me blush with how romantic you're being. But at the same time, it's like, you have way too much, like, effort put into this. It's a first date. Like, let's just chill. Let's hang out. You know?
Yeah, I feel like one dinner date is fine. Definitely not, the absolute best first date idea you could have.
Yeah.
But why three? Three's just
Right.
extra. It's just that, but with more effort, more stress, and no real extra benefit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
pretty low tier for me.
D.
But it's, I don't know about E, because I mean, when it comes down to it, it's still just like a dinner date. So
Yeah.
I think D for dinner date.
I actually did say D as in Delta.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
D as in Delta Airlines. At the E terminal, you can go to Checkers and get your burgers, and that's step 2 of the day.
Whew, buddy.
Yeah, D.
All right.
D tier for the 3-course dinner. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's too many words for the rest of it. Next up, we have a cooking class. There we go. Cooking class. I personally have never done this.
Me neither. I mean, I took like home ec in
High school?
What was it? High school?
Oh,
I
high
don't
school
know.
or middle school? One of the two.
One of the two.
I thought
Took
you were
a
just
home ec
forgetting
class.
the word high school, and I was like, I got you. Hold on.
Yeah, I couldn't
High
remember if
school.
it was high school or middle school. But the
Okay.
thing is, like, it was basically just a cooking class for the majority of it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's not, what's really like. It's not the exact spirit of what we're looking at here.
Right.
I don't dislike it.
I'll
It
say
sounds
this.
neat.
A date where you cook is incredibly fun. I've never done a cooking class, and I feel like I don't know if I would like that as much because of the more public aspect of it, I guess. I don't know, like, if I have a date, it's like, let's hang out at either my house or your house and let me cook for you and you help out or whatever you want to do. That's fun. I like to cook. But I don't know, a cooking class seems kind of like, that seems off-putting to me because there's
So I
probably like a
think-
lot of people in there that are going to want to be like professional chefs and they're doing it for certification of some sort. And if you're there on a date, it's kind of just like, oh, like, how seriously do I need to take this?
Okay, well, I will say there's different kinds of cooking classes, and the people that are going to be in a cooking class looking for, professional level skills, those aren't the cooking classes you're going to be taking. They're
That's a
you're
good
going to
point.
go to an entry level cooking class that probably advertises itself to single people that need to learn how to cook or couples looking for a good time. Like,
Okay, that's a fair point. Fun side note, I worked in a kitchen for 5 years and I was never ServSafe certified. My girlfriend took one cooking class in college and got that, and I'm ashamed. Just throwing that out there.
I've never worked at a restaurant. I don't know what ServSafe certified means. So,
it's a certification that just says like, hey, this person.
he's not going to give you salmonella on purpose?
Essentially, that's basically it. Which, I mean, really, it's like you just got to know how, what temperature to cook chicken at, or what temperature it needs to be to know that it's done.
Yes.
Which is like, I don't know, like 60 degrees or something.
Do you check the temperature of your food?
What's that?
Do you, when you cook, do you generally actually check?
It depends. When I'm cooking at home, or if I'm cooking for my girlfriend, which I've done once or twice, I do it just out of precaution.
You check the temperature?
Yes. The last time I cooked, I actually cooked for her and her younger brother. And I made chicken that I baked. And so I was like, I want to make sure this is right so that I don't get them sick, If it's something that I'm cooking for myself, it's kind of like, you know what? I know when it's done, but I do it as precaution.
That's really responsible of you. I don't, I really didn't feel like most people did that. So, interesting that you do. Myself, I don't do that at all. I just kind of try some, and if it's done, it's done,
Okay, fun side story. I remember when I was younger, my mom, cooked some sort of, like a chicken-related recipe that she found in a cookbook. And, the presentation was gorgeous, and she took it out of the oven, and she's like, wow, this looks really great. And she gave me a strip of chicken that was cooked in the oven, and I took a bite, and a bunch of blood came out of it. So I always just make sure that it is as done as possible. Not as done as possible, but you know what I mean. I am very cautious to make sure that it looks, the right amount of done.
Oh, I'm a well-done food kind of guy, so yeah. I know I'm not, playing around with raw meat, but at the same time, I usually just, cut a piece off, look at it, go, yep, probably, and then I toss it in my mouth and go, yeah, definitely. Call it good.
And in hindsight, I probably could have, cut the piece of chicken that I had in front of me, but I was a child, But I'm just saying that
so your mom tried to poison you, is what I heard.
Yeah. Sue my mom and see you in court. I'm just kidding. No, that being said, the cooking class thing.
Right.
I feel like, I don't know, I can't imagine myself on a date in a environment where I'm supposed to be learning, because I feel like I would just be taking it a little too seriously, and it's like, hey, we gotta season this right, or we're gonna fail, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's if I'm put in that position of I have to follow very specific instructions, I'm going to overthink it.
I guess it's person dependent that way.
Yeah, it definitely is.
But I will say,
this is our show. It's based on what we like and nothing else.
Well, there's that, of course.
Yeah.
But the cooking class, in general, taking classes like that,
yeah,
they're not meant to be stressful. They're not meant to be a school setting. It's meant to be more just a open, you've come here to learn a specific skill.
Yeah.
Let us, do that thing to the best of our abilities. And if maybe you're not doing so good at it, that's okay. You came here to get better. So it's all right.
See, I can't do that. I'm just going to say right now, no matter what is happening, if I'm on a date or hanging out with friends or anything, if I'm in a cooking class, I'm going to be you got to pour the salt, pour the salt, pour the salt, too much salt. Ah! Rest in peace to anyone who just listens to this.
Very basic dance class one time.
Oh yeah?
And I am not a dancer.
You put that very nicely. I'm not going to say you're a horrible klutz or anything like that, but you I don't know, that was just very eloquently worded.
Well, okay. If the audience really needs a nice image for it, I will say that one of my favorite dance moves is cranking up the lawnmower.
Oh, yes. 100%.
Anyways, moving on from that and my impressive skill set, which does not include dancing.
Right.
The class itself was very, very not stressful. Just a nice, chill time. Everybody there was pretty much on a beginner level, except for a couple people, and they were doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, yes, we realize that you personally may not be the best at this, but that's why you're here. We want you to get better.
Yeah.
Just try.
I don't know where I stand on this, to be honest. Because, like, the cooking aspect is pretty fun. I'm not going to lie. Cooking with another person, especially as, like, a date, just is great.
I want to cut in real quick. As a side note, your volume has dropped.
Oh.
Randomly.
Let me, is this better?
Somewhat.
It's just a proximity thing. I'll turn the preamp up a little bit.
Okay.
How's this?
Good.
Okay. Cooking class. I
haven't. Oh.
What?
I unplugged my headset for a moment there. But anyways, cooking class. Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't done it. Kind of hard to decide. Think it's a pretty good idea. Probably better than arcades. B.
B? I'm okay with that. I feel like that's a solid place for it.
I feel like there are people it won't land well with, and you know what? That's okay.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I like cooking a lot, actually. Especially, of my own accord. I feel like it's more the class aspect of it. But, I guess, like you said, I've never done it, so we're gonna move on to poetry reading. Forgive me if I say this. It feels like it's no different than the comedy open mic. Or it's like you're not supposed to talk. You're supposed to listen. And if you talk, you're kind of an asshole.
I've not been to an actual poetry reading before.
Okay.
I mean, kind of, but like very unofficial, and it was a very, very chill setting. I don't really know what poetry reading is generally like. For me, it's kind of the same problem with the comedy open mic.
Mm-hmm.
Added on to what you would get if you went to like an art exhibit or something.
Okay.
So with an art exhibit, you have the potentiality to talk about, what does this mean to the person and whatnot, which is interesting and deep, and maybe not the best first date idea, but, there's something to talk about there. So you've got that, except you have the pressure of a public situation in which talking is not encouraged.
Right. Now, as someone who works in a venue that's filmed a comedy open mic before, if you talk during a poetry reading, it is kind of the same thing, though, in all honesty. Like, if you're talking in the middle of it, it's like, come on, man. Like, they're performing,
Well, don't poetry readings generally have downtime in between readings of poetry?
Yes. And it's
you are expected to talk during those downtimes? No?
I think it depends because, and it's a similar thing with like the comedy open mic stuff. Usually, there will be someone who's kind of the MC or someone who's just kind of guiding it along. Like, hey, give this person a round of applause, and now, maybe an intermission. But usually it's like, give it up for that person, and now give it up for this person, and then they come on stage, and it's kind of like a immediate thing. I could be wrong.
If that is how it works, then yeah, it 100% just suffers from comedy open mic syndrome, and so it would be F tier. I do think it has slightly more potential than that.
I also feel like a poetry reading as a first date feels a little too, I guess, I don't want to say pretentious, but it kind of feels that way. It's like if you just met that person and they're like, let's go to a poetry reading, I'd be like, oh.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you go on a first date to a poetry reading, you better gosh darn hope that you're right about them liking poetry, because otherwise,
Right.
worst, you've done bad. You failed. First
Yeah.
date's dead. Like,
And I was more putting myself in the position of someone else setting that first date up, where it's like, hey, like someone says to you, hey, let's go on a poetry reading as our first date. I'd be not, I don't know, I'd be a little psyched out by that. I'd be like, oh, like that's definitely not what I had in mind. It's definitely unique. I'll give it that. But
I mean, I like poetry.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, like, if someone wants to take me on a poetry reading date, I'll go for it. I'll go.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be a good time, but, like,
yeah,
I'm down.
I'd be down for it for sure. But I don't know. I feel like I'd just be a little like thrown off by that. I'd be like, oh, like this feels like something you would do if you really like. I guess if someone knew that I was very much into poetry, that would be awesome. But as someone who is myself, if someone asked that, I'd be like, that's not where I was expecting this to go. You know?
But I don't really feel like that's a bad thing. I mean, it's not a good thing either, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
You got that little bit of, this was unusual, this is unexpected, this is unique.
Right.
The exotic. This person took me to a poetry reading on the first date.
Yeah,
huh?
It's definitely memorable too. Like that would be something that I'd look back on and be like, that was, pretty cool of them to not just say, let's go to a bar or a, whatever.
Yeah.
Or a comedy open mic night.
Right.
Yeah, it's still not really high up there for me because I don't know. I'm putting myself in the imagination of like, let's say you meet with someone on like, one of those dating apps. I was gonna say one specifically, but let's say you're on a dating app and you match with somebody and you talk for like a couple days and it's going pretty well, and then they say, hey, let's meet up and go to a poetry reading together. I'd be like, I don't know, like, it sounds cool, but at the same time, where did you get the idea that I want to go to a poetry reading? You know?
See, for me, like, I'm trying to imagine this, and for me, it's one of those things where if they come up to me with this, I'm going to assume that they're confident that this is a good idea, and so I'm going to be like, you know what? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Show me. Right. Show me that this is a good idea, because I'm interested. I want this to be a good idea. Show me.
But if it's not fun, then it destroys it,
Yeah,
like,
and if there's no talking, that makes
reading.
It really rough.
Yeah. I don't know where I'd stand on this. Part of me wants to say D, but
if there's no talking, I think it's E tier.
It's down there for sure, yeah.
If there's potential that you can like talk in between people, doing their readings, I think it could actually be really good, but very specific. So probably, I mean, for me, I think it would be probably a B. But because of the specificity, I think C.
Okay. I'll put it this way.
If there's talking.
If you know that the other person is a big fan of poetry readings and you have, I'll say, experience with going to poetry readings, as weird as that sounds, like you know how that works, go in there and enjoy it. It's probably one of the best dates you could ever have. But you have to know that the other person is not only interested in poetry in the first place, but
it's
you have
the
to
same
make sure
thing we
that
said with the arcade.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
If both of you love arcades, yeah, of course, going to the arcade is a great first date.
Yeah, but yeah, it is kind of like to me, it's a little bit more niche of an interest than an arcade too, because
yes, for sure.
Even if you don't really like video games, you can still maybe like have a couple drinks or play the basketball and skee ball stuff.
Yeah, everybody's got some sort of simple something you can get into. I mean, heck, arcades have Fruit Ninja. Like,
yeah,
come on.
That's a fair point. There's also a lot more variety in arcades, though. Like they got like bumper cars in there, and every once in a while, and
yeah. However, now that we're talking about this a bit more, I think I can settle on a D tier. If there's no talking, it's definitely E tier, but I think D tier is just kind of like if there's some talking and it's just too specific. It's too, like, if you know that the person's gonna like this, it's a good idea. But that's the same with any idea.
Yeah.
If you knew that that person really liked cutting grass and you invited them over to your place to cut grass, I'm sure that would be a great idea.
If you know that someone really enjoys having 3 meals at 3 different places in one day, then yeah, it's the perfect idea.
Yeah. Hold
on, one more. If you know that people really enjoy having 3 meals at 3 different airport terminals, then yeah, it's a great idea.
And there it is.
Yep.
The 3-course dinner makes a 3-course joke. Let's go.
It had to come full triangle, I guess. All jokes have to come full circle. That's the quote. Where are we going with C or D?
I think D's better.
Okay. It's not the worst idea if you know how to handle it. You know, if you know you're in the right place with it and stuff like that, then, you know, maybe it could be the S tier date for you, and it could be, you know, the first date to end all first dates, if you will.
Yeah, also, you have to make sure that the poetry reading you're going to is
one with
going to be
intermissions.
having some poetry that is not super depressing.
Oh yeah, or super like I don't know, like anti-romance, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
if you go to a poetry
of
reading and it's all just like political and social agenda poetry,
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of sucks.
Maybe don't go up to a poetry reading if the theme is I hate men, or I hate women, or I hate everybody. I don't know.
That could be pretty fun. Hold on now.
Some tea almost came out of my nose when you said that. Just imagine going on a first date with somebody, and let's say you're a guy and you're on a date with a girl, and you go to a poetry reading, and the first poet is like, fuck men. Men are the worst. And you're just sitting there like, oh shit. And then your date's staring at you like, yeah, you're kind of the worst. And then the second poet comes up and he's like, fuck women. And it's just you get to like switch roles for a minute and be like, yeah, you're kind of, yeah. There's no second date out of that.
No, I think it could actually be pretty fun. I think you can kind of get into this like, oh yeah. No, so do you agree with that? What do you think about that? Is that
you immediately go to the arcade to outcompete each other to see which gender is better? All right, this joke's old. Delete. Next is fancy pizza.
Fancy pizza.
Fancy
Get
pizza.
A popular favorite, but in a classier way. What does this mean?
I'm assuming it's not like come to my apartment and we'll get Pizza Hut and hang out. It's like we go to like a pizza restaurant where you sit down and you order a pizza, and it's not like Papa John's or something.
Okay, I've been to a couple of like sit-in pizza restaurants that purport themselves to be a fancier place to eat pizza. Not a bad idea, but this is also just a dinner date that happens to be at a pizza place.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah. And
definitely not a bad idea. I mean, no, not everybody. A lot of people like pizza.
Yeah. No, it should be everybody likes pizza. every normal human being. If you hate pizza, unsubscribe.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that was mean.
It's a good thing you've got a girlfriend, because you just turned off so many people. They're like,
all of the women who hate pizza are not going to listen to me anymore.
Yep.
Darn.
Wow. Okay.
I'd really
Jesus.
hate to lose the chance to date someone who hates pizza. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure you're fine, but fuck
I didn't realize that was such a deal breaker for you, man.
If you don't like pizza, we can't. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I mean, it'd be a very strange moment. Like if I found out that my current girlfriend does not like pizza, I'd be very confused.
Well, let the record show I will not judge a single person for whether they like or dislike pizza. I think if
Yo-Yo
you
is
don't
single.
like pizza, that's interesting.
Sorry, what? That was just,
I didn't quite hear what you said, and I don't know if I want to know.
I said Yo-Yo is single.
Oh,
That's it.
there is that, I suppose. I mean, yeah, sure.
I'm gonna have to blur out your name if I've said it at all today. Again, I want to offer an alternative to this date idea. Rather than going to a fancy pizza restaurant, find like a hole in the wall restaurant that like there's only one of them and they only exist in your town or whatever. And go there and get, I promise you, probably the best food you'll eat all month.
Now, I will say, while that is very true, that is also still just a slightly better dinner date.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. An alternative to the dinner date or the fancy pizza date is that. Go somewhere and get like a home cooked meal, but in a restaurant because it's a family owned business or whatever. Those people do it right. I promise. Like 95% of the time they do it right. That being said, I'm not trying to discredit like the 5% chance that it'll be horrendous, but at least then you can make a joke out of the meal, Be like, man, our first date sucked. That food was god awful, but we had a good time, The fancy pizza thing, though, is
So the
like
idea
you said, it's still a dinner
behind
date.
the fancy pizza,
Yeah.
from what I understand, is that it's the dinner date, except you're going to a place where the person is extremely likely to like the food because it is pizza and they can put whatever they want on it.
What if you disagree about your pizza toppings, though?
Then you get multiple pizzas. I don't understand. Or you get them to put different toppings on each half of the pizza. Have you not pizzaed before?
I mean, listen. I'll advertise this. Someday we'll we lost the components to the video, but someday we plan on doing a 2-part series again of pizza toppings for meat and veggies and making 2 videos out of it. So that'll come in the future if we decide to redo it, or if I can put the video back together somehow. We'll talk about it later. While I'm on a rant, check out our social media. We have social media. I still haven't posted anything, but it's there. Please follow us, give us our ideas and our love and our hatred, and just keep in touch. Anyway, fancy pizza restaurant, like you said, it is a glorified dinner date. It's better than just going to like Taco Bell, I guess. But
okay, yes.
but it's not so much better that it deserves to be like a high tier thing.
Well, like I said, I think the selling point is the safety of it. It's a dinner date without having to choose a restaurant that your date will like because it's pizza, and if they don't like it, then, apparently it wasn't going to work. Apparently that's a deal breaker, as we have previously determined.
Yeah, definitely. How can you not like pizza? What's wrong with you? Anyway, yeah, so, I mean, I'm trying to think, like, where would I put just a regular dinner date on the tier list? And then it'll probably be in the same tier as that.
It's B for me.
I was thinking the same thing, actually. I
think the cooking class and the dinner date are, like, bam.
That's true, because it's kind of fun. You probably, I assume in a cooking class, you get to eat what you cook. And, food is involved, you're probably having a good time. You get to probably conversate a little bit more than usual than, say, like an arcade or comedy open mic. Yeah, I'm feeling B.
B's good.
Fancy pizza. Which, again, like, if you're gonna go on a dinner date, just go somewhere that is going to have good food in the first place. Like, find something that's not a typical sports bar or fast food place, and you're set, honestly. This is the one that needs some elaboration on. I put library, and I know that's not quite what the article says itself. Will you give me the full part of that?
I'll give you the full part of it, and I'm gonna pitch you a replacement option here that I think more fits the spirit of the article's suggestion.
Okay, so it's not a library, by the way. I mean, it is, but it isn't.
Yes. Okay. So the idea is that you go to either a used bookstore or a library, but you're not going there just to like hang out. You're going there and you're going to discuss stories that you've read and what they mean to you.
This is according to the article, right?
According to the article.
Okay.
This is what our man, the man, the myth, the legend, Seth.
Just Seth.
From Mantelligence.
Seth from Mantelligence, yeah. Thank you, Seth. What's your alternative, man? I'm curious.
Okay, so this is something that I have actually done, and I think it's fantastic, because it's this idea plus actually a couple other ideas on the list. You go to your downtown, the old school area of whatever city you live in, and you find those used bookstores, those record stores, those, kind of oddball shops.
Yes.
In your downtown area, and you just spend the day going to a bunch of them.
Yo. I've done that plenty of times. It is a phenomenal idea. Highly recommend that.
And I mean, sure, I guess if you happen to go into a used bookstore and you pull out a copy of Moby Dick, which you are extremely attached to because for some reason Captain Ahab reminds you of your grandfather that you love dearly who passed away 7 years ago. Look, cool. You can talk about it if you want to, I guess. But in my opinion, you're just like more likely to have a good time if you don't do that. If you just go to these places, look at stuff, and just have fun.
Yes. 100%. There's a lot of like used bookstores and record stores and stuff in like Atlanta, and I will park somewhere in, just wherever parking garage is close to those things, and we'll just walk until we find them. We found a used bookstore that was 3 stories, and they had an ungodly amount of just works of art. They had music. They had like a whole, it was like a house almost, it had like an upstairs and a basement and a middle floor, and like a whole room of the middle floor was just autobiographies of entertainers. And my girlfriend found it, and she was like, hey, look, this is like your room. And I mean, I swear to God, it was incredible. And I was like, oh, I know this person, and this person really like inspired me to make music. And weirdly enough, I didn't buy any books that day because we had other plans, and I didn't want to walk around with the books. But, it was just an absolutely incredible thing, and you really get to learn the interests of the person you're with. There's a lot of like weird shit you can find of just like, what book is this, and why am I reading it, and why am I intrigued? You can also find a lot of like really rare, books or whatever you're into.
Yeah, and that's part of the beauty of it is that you don't know what you're going to find.
Yeah.
You could go to a used bookstore and find, literally nothing that you're interested in at all.
Yeah.
And then you could be looking around and you see, hey, isn't that one of the original, like, who's person? Oh no. How could I have already forgotten?
Lewis Carroll.
Probably not. That seems wrong.
He wrote
Lovecraft.
Oh yeah.
One of the original like Lovecraft stories in old print instead of just a new compilation.
Yeah. I think my dad found an original article of Treasure Island, I think it was. From like 1950 something, and like that was just he just framed it and put it up, and like that was it. But it was just like wild that we were I forget where we were, but we were looking through like a stack of like old newspapers from the 50s, and it was in there, and they sold it to us for like $2. I'm like, that's probably worth a lot of money, and they just didn't know it was in there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, there's so much stuff at these places that a lot of times they don't know. And if they do know, I mean, yeah, you might not be able to buy it and have it for cheap, but it'll still be cool to see it. And if you really do want it,
Yeah.
the option's there.
I'm gonna put your idea at S. But as for the original article, their idea of going to a library or a used bookstore. First of all, don't go to a library. That's like, you're supposed to be quiet in there. People are trying to work on stuff.
I mean,
go to a library by all means, just not as a first date.
Yeah. Yes.
Go to your libraries more often, actually, but not as a first date.
I've been to a couple public libraries where they really wouldn't be, upset at you if you came there for a first date and were, talking and chatting and having a good time or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a library is not the place that you go to talk and chat and have a good time. It's not a talk and chat atmosphere.
It is, it's more academic
reading
than anything. Yeah,
it's there
for it's there for research purposes. Or like I did that. I went to a library a lot when I was trying to find just some new hobby to get into, and so there's obviously a lot of books about different types of hobbies and stuff like that. Anyway, it's there for like reference. It's there for information. It's not there for entertainment. For the most part, don't go there on a date. But if we're saying like a used bookstore, I'm all for that. If you go there and you just hang out at a used bookstore and you like find some stuff that you like and reminds you of your childhood or your past or whatever, you can start a conversation that way. I'm all for it. It's great.
It's kind of like the flea market, but a little bit safer and also AC, which is cool.
That's true.
But
if it's me, I will still be sweating profusely because it's a date. But regardless, honestly, I think that would be an S tier thing for me. Like if you just go to a used bookstore, I've done that quite a few times. Not quite in the same way that they say it necessarily, but the way you said it was pretty on point. Of just like go to a used bookstore or a record store or whatever, and just like look at stuff that you will interest you, or stuff that has been a part of your past in some way.
Yeah,
that is the way to go.
I think so.
I'm going to combine their idea and your idea and say that is the S tier thing.
Okay.
Because I think the way that you worded it is just, not to discredit you or anything, but I think that's what they were trying to go for. That's what Seth from Mantelligence was trying to go for. But maybe they just tried to condense it down into very few words.
I mean, the article is very condensed, so maybe you're right about that. You know what, Seth? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Great minds think alike, buddy.
Yeah, man. You just you kind of put it into the next level, I think. Because I think without your interpretation, I think I would have been like, B. But like the more I think about it, it's like, well, I've done that plenty of times where we go to like used bookstores, and there's one pretty close to where I used to live that had instruments and like records and stuff that people had just traded in for store credit. And so there's like guitars in there, there's like old violins, and obviously like a lot of old and signed books and stuff like that. And it's really cool. It's just kind of cool to be like, oh hey, like this is interesting. And
I will say that a lot of bookstores nowadays have also branched out into other sorts of media. Bookstores, a lot of them are now record stores. They have, old comic books and stuff. And there's just so many different things to be interested in there that even if you're not big on reading, you can probably find something cool.
Yeah, it's like even if you're not a fucking nerd, you can still... Side note, you know what? I'm gonna put the library thing. I'm not gonna put library. I'm gonna put used bookstore. It feels right. That's our S tier, and I'm very happy with that. I do want to give not an alternative, but just another date idea. And YOYO, you can critique this if you want.
Oh, I will.
Me being a big music boy, someone who is a purveyor and listener and creator when it comes to music. It's really fun to go to, like, if you can find a record store or a place that sells CDs or anything like that. Go in there with your date and find something that you want, find something that they want, and find something that you've never heard of, either of you have heard of. And then buy that thing if it interests you. And then, let's say you buy 3 CDs, right? You buy something you like, you buy something they like, and then you buy just some really weird looking shit. And then you both walk away with some new music. And then you can spend another part of your date just listening to the record that you don't know about. And for me, 9 times out of 10, laughing at it because it's fucking horrible.
Jesus, all right, well,
no, but
sure.
Okay, I won't. No, I'm gonna say the name of the band, and I'll put their band logo up when I say it.
Oh no.
Oh, this is great. We went to a record store in Atlanta, and I bought like 5 CDs. I don't have an aux cord or Bluetooth in my car, so I listen to CDs. And so I bought like 3 CDs that I really wanted, and I bought one for my girlfriend. And then we went to this like dollar bin that was way off in the corner. It was just a bunch of CDs thrown into a cardboard box. And they were all $1. And we picked it up, and we knew it was the one because it was a band called Shitfuckers. And their logo is like... I feel so embarrassed to say I bought this, but their logo is like an S and an F, but it's like made into a swastika.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that until after I bought it, and I was wondering why the girl at the cash register like gave me the most uncomfortable look. And it was just like really shitty thrash metal. And we listened to it as we drove all the way from downtown Atlanta to where she lived. And then I went inside her house and we just joked about how fucking horrible it was.
See, okay. And this is the part where you kind of lost me a bit.
Okay.
Because I am not the kind of person who's going to sit there and listen to music that I'm not enjoying. Like if you're playing, if I'm riding somewhere with you and you're playing music that I don't like, I just can't stand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just going to sit there quietly. I'm going to be like, "Hey man, can we listen to something else? do you like something else?"
I mean, but that wasn't a first date. Obviously, that was like a good handful of months into the relationship that I'm in.
Yeah.
So it was a little more just like we knew that we were not actually enjoying it. We were kind of enjoying it for the joke. Like she was reading the lyrics out of the little CD booklet and stuff like that. Like we were just kind of like.
I'm not saying it's not something like you could have fun with, but I feel like you have to know that the person's gonna have fun with it.
Yeah.
And for me, like I know I probably wouldn't have fun with it. I'd probably be sitting there like, holy God, why did I waste money on this garbage? Like,
it was $1. I'll be all right.
Will you? Will you be all right knowing that for the rest of your life?
Listen, for $1, that entertained us for a good 20 minutes. So,
okay,
I'll take it. Probably longer than that, actually. It was a pretty long album.
How are your ears?
Changed. I'll be honest. I'm pretty sure that band is satirical in some way. Like, I don't think they're taking themselves very seriously. If I'm wrong about that, sorry, guys. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Fuck you. Your logo's a swastika. Regardless, like I said, if you know that the other person is a big fan of, like, just finding new music or something like that, then I'd say by all means give it a shot.
It could definitely be fun, but I also feel like if you try this, if you want to take Mr. Teller Morose's idea here and go for this, know that you can always jump ship. You can always turn off the CD if it's not going well.
Yeah,
if you guys aren't enjoying it, if you're not cutting up and having a good time, there's always the eject button. Literally.
Yeah, it's not like you're stuck in the in that position for an hour, and you just have to suffer through it. It's like, okay, this is really bad. I've had enough, and you can put one of the CDs that you got that you enjoy in there, and then you can have a good time.
And that pretty much recovers the idea for me. I'm not gonna lie. I think I've solved my own problem with your idea. You're welcome.
You were combating me pretty hard on that, and I was like, I mean, I don't have a good defense, but like you said, you defended your own point, or you defended my point for me.
Yeah. The devil's advocate's advocate.
Yeah, there you go. It's like those scenes in I don't know what show or movie specifically, but it's like, the angel and devil are on the shoulders, and then an angel and devil pop up on the angel's shoulders.
Correct.
And it's kind of like the angelception, which I hate using that term, "ception," but Wow, that was quite a ride, man.
It really was. I'm glad that it was as much of a ride as it was, because I really wasn't sure. Like I said, when I looked at the ideas, I was like, yeah, I could imagine all of these going either pretty well or pretty poorly, depending. So
yeah, and pretty diverse too. I mean, there's a lot of stuff at C&D, but we have almost everything, or almost every tier filled.
Almost.
We're
and
close.
And E's not a real tier, anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll go ahead and read them out while we're here. At F, we have the comedy open mic night. If you talk during those, I hate you. At E, we have. At D, we have the 3-course dinner at 3 different places and the poetry reading, which is kind of dependent on how it goes. At C, we have the arcade, mini golf, and the early movie. The early movie, again, kind of dependent on what happens next. B, we've got a cooking class or the fancy pizza restaurant thing. That's just a glorified dinner date. Mm-hmm. At A, we have the flea market. And at S, we have more of Yo-Yo's idea, but we'll give credit to Seth from Mantelligence. The used bookstore, go hang out in those places, find stuff you like, and, learn a lot about whoever you're with.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
With all these ideas, the big thing is just that you're having a good time.
Exactly.
And just like with the CD, you can always do something else. If you're on a date, it's not going well.
You can always press eject.
No,
not on the date, but on the idea.
Yes, you can
not having a good time,
always change gears. If you can tell that the date's not going well, and you think it's genuinely because of what you've chosen to do, it's okay to switch it up. Do something else.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, you can 100% salvage a date. It's doable.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you try one of these and it's not going well, switch to a one at a higher tier. Unless you're at a used bookstore and it's not going well, in which case, you're just not dateable.
I mean, if you went somewhere and you learned something about them, maybe you went to the flea market and it's hot and miserable and it looks like it's starting to rain and you just think, oh man, this is not going that great. But they happen to mention something about like a record that you guys saw at one of the stands. Okay, maybe flip over, maybe go to a record store and see how that works out,
Yeah. Or maybe one of the vendors at the flea market is also giving a cooking class. No, I'm kidding. That would never happen. No, but in all seriousness, like Yo-Yo said, the best thing is you just take your time, enjoy yourself, and try to make it a conversation rather than, just a thing that you're going to together.
Right.
Cool. Well, I think that's it.
I think so too. So, with that being said, thank you everyone for joining us on this wonderful Tuesday. It has been a pleasure. This was a good ride, a good time. Hopefully, good times will be had by anyone that takes these ideas.
Yeah.
If you would, take a moment. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you didn't like the video, give it a dislike. That's okay too.
If you hate pizza, dislike the video.
If you hate pizza, I'm sorry.
If you
I'm
hate
sorry
pizza,
that my friend
listen-
is so insensitive to your
No.
kind.
Hold
okay?
on. I've got something here.
Oh no.
If you hate pizza, fuck you. If you hate pizza, listen to one of our other podcasts. We won't talk about pizza unless it's a delivery pizza, in which case, that's your prerogative to listen to the fast food tier list.
I might actually have to go back and listen to our other podcast because I'm pretty sure we've talked about pizza a number of times, my friend.
No, we didn't talk about pizza in the Pokemon one for sure. Is there a pizza Pokemon?
No. Thank God.
All right, we're dragging this out. Let's do an outro.
Yes.
Thank you again to Man Intelligence for your article. Thank you, Seth, for writing it and giving us the content that we needed for this episode. Check out their website. I don't know anything about them other than that they made this article and I looked at 10 of the items. But I'm sure you're great. And check out our social media.
Yeah. Happy Tuesday, everybody.